life extension, restoring your energy, increasing your energy levels. And you've got some really fascinating ways to make that happen.
Life is an energy exchange. And there's something more fundamental to health behind that.
You figured out how to effectively record the equivalent of software for the body.
That enables us to give like a much more instantaneous, true picture of your overall vitality.
I know you've got 3 ways to heal the body that you talk about, and you're thinking about bigger things, more portable things, and getting even better with the software. All right, Harry, great to have you here. Beautiful Southern California. Why were you in town?
Well, I just flew in to meet up with the University of California, who are conducting some really, really exciting research for us at the moment. And, a couple of things that they're doing. So one that they discovered, when you actually feed a medium of lung tissue in printed water, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, that you're basically able to get a protective effect against certain viruses that cannot be discussed on YouTube. Anyway, and they got these very, very dramatic results where the lung tissue is basically able to reject said viruses. And anyway, the university is so intrigued by that, they're basically now doing further research into the subject that we're going to talk about today, which is basically longevity and how we can restore people's energy. And so we're now doing some worm studies to see if we can make the worms live longer by basically feeding them imprinted water. We're also doing some memory and cognition studies, both on brain tissue, but also on some mice models and in some human trials. And we're also studying the overall cellular energy level. And then also on a human trial, we're just seeing how much energy people basically have increased over a 3-month period. So it's pretty exciting.
All right. So we're going to decode and unpack that. But the bottom line is what we're talking about is life extension, restoring your energy, increasing your energy levels. And you've got some really fascinating ways to make that happen. Is that fair enough?
That is fair enough.
Okay. All right. So let's get back to I think the most important thing here before we talk about you. Tell us a little bit about the research that's been going on, and then we're going to get into your backstory. Or do you want to start with your backstory first and why this is so interesting to you?
Why not? Let's just give it a little bit of our story. So when we were 21, we basically fell ice climbing. And
who's we, by the way?
Me.
The royal we?
The royal we. It's a British thing.
Oh, really?
And I do have a tiny bit of, I'm the whatever of a lord. So there's that little side thing. So okay. I should get rid of my English we.
Oh, no, that's all right. It was just like, I hadn't heard you say that before. Go ahead. We it is.
We it is. Okay. When I was 21, I fell while I was ice climbing, ended up fracturing my spine. And before that, I ended up having a fever while I was ice climbing, fell. And then from that, I ended up bedridden for the next 7 years. So in short, I ended up with like bedridden chronic fatigue syndrome, went through all the normal medical system, and the doctors couldn't find out what was wrong with me or didn't know what to do with me. And I was in like the British NHS system. There's no functional medicine in Britain. And this is also 20 years back when things were far less advanced than they are today. And, after going through the medical system, trying out all sorts of naturopathic techniques from I did a 3-week water fast, lost like a third of my weight, passed bucketfuls of parasites. I did things like Gerson therapy, where you do all these coffee enemas and juicing every day. I did the vegan diets, the paleo diets, homeopathy, you name it. I basically did it and tried it. Unfortunately, none of those things were working. I was still basically deteriorating and just totally bedridden. And I was on about year 5 or 6. I basically started thinking, well, why don't I actually study where energy comes from? Because I didn't have any. And, I looked up in Yahoo, because Google wasn't around at the time. I was looking it up online, and I came across this term bioenergetics, which is the study of energy in living systems. was like, oh, well, yeah, if I could understand where energy comes from and how you could optimize it, maybe I can get my life back. And I dug around a bit more, came across this scientist from Australia who was called Professor Peter Fraser. And he basically set up the first acupuncture college became part of Melbourne University. He left Melbourne University and ended up doing further research to map out all of the energy and information of the human body field. I wrote to him, he wrote back, and he sent me a paper back on quantum biology. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. And another year and a half went past. And from that, I still had this, I actually started getting this other idea. I was like, wouldn't it be amazing if you could create a home wellness system that could basically detect and correct your energy from your home? And the main reason behind that is because I couldn't go and visit different doctors and practitioners because I couldn't drive. So I wanted something that would help me and others from the comfort of our own home. And he liked that idea. So I wrote back to him and we ended up agreeing to meet. He flew out to Los Angeles. I flew from England to Los Angeles. Fortunately, we got on like a house on fire. He ended up leaving Australia to...
Okay, just checking. Is that bad?
No, it was good.
Okay. All right. It was good. Because I was thinking, that doesn't sound good. A house on fire. That's actually another British thing. A house on fire is a good thing.
So, well, I mean, I was 26, 27, and this guy was, 57 from Australia, and a scientist. It wasn't that likely that we were going to get on, really. Yeah. And he ended up leaving Australia and emigrating for England to basically form the company that's now NES. And then we spent 10 years basically doing R&D to create what is now the Bioenergetic wellness system. And then in that period, and mainly in the first 2 years, he basically healed me of our chronic fatigue syndrome by using what we now call infoceuticals, which have taken a very, very long time for universities to take seriously, which, is the example that we were giving in the beginning that are now being researched seriously as to their effects.
Okay.
And that's my backstory.
All right. So, backstory, bottom line, you fell down, you were jacked up, 7 years in bed, no energy. You spend this time figuring out how to make it happen. Nothing works along the way. You find someone who effectively heals you, and you start going deeper, which leads us to what happens next. What's the next most important thing that you want to focus on here, just so we keep the wheels on the bus? Again, energy, longevity, bioenergetics.
Well, yeah, maybe I should say what bioenergetics is.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so bioenergetics is the study, detection, and correction of energy in living systems. And just as a general principle, like most of us don't quite understand that life is this huge exchange of energy. And for example, like we're sitting here, you just took a deep breath of oxygen and hopefully you're going to breathe it out. And so that there is an exchange of energy. We're sitting under all of these lights. So all the photons are entering us. Those photons are a source of energy, just like plants receive energy through photosynthesis. Humans do in a sort of way as well, but basically photons will hit structured water inside your cells. When it hits structured water, it will spin off an electron. That electron can be used as energy in the body. You've probably heard of grounding, like grounding is a source of electrons. Food, even sugar, the ATP route, is a source of electrons. And ultimately the whole body actually lives off electrons. And when you really, really get down to it, what matters is the flow of electrons in the body. And, there's another little example of that. So there's bacteria that literally just live off pure electrons. Like they don't eat any food. They basically don't excrete anything. They just live off pure electrons. And in a way, so do we as a human. And if you like, you could call us basically like an overall body battery.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, tell us a little bit about what your discoveries have been. You've got a cool prop with you today, Bedoing right over there. I know we're going to get to that in a little bit, but so you get super fascinated. You go down this path and you're like, I want to unlock basically longevity, energy, peak performance, and you get into the field of developing devices and systems and also training programs that help other people do this on a massive scale. So I know we can go down and talk a little bit about pulsed electromagnetic fields. We can talk about this notion of water and how that fits into this, and the research that you're doing in at the university. Where do we go from here?
I think, so we just talked about how life is an energy exchange. And there's something more fundamental to health behind that, which is actually that fields govern energy. And so, this is a little bit of an odd concept, but, one way of looking at it, have you ever watched the film The Matrix?
Of course.
I would have thought so. So in The Matrix, basically everything is computer code. And if you like when you really look at the physics of reality, it's actually information that is behind structuring, or if you like, directing energy that occurs in reality. And exactly the same as in the human body, is the same in the human body. Ultimately there's a control system behind how all the resources, information, etc., are being directed. So, one of the massive insights actually we had, whenever it was 20 years ago when we met Peter, as when he was healing me, I was
and Peter was the guy from the Aussie.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the crazy Aussie who left Australia to build a business in the UK, which is a whole other story. And he basically, the big insight that we had at the time is well, why don't we record what this information is that can direct your control system? Because if you can record what that information is, i.e., how does a healthy body operate efficiently, properly, and if you can give that information to the body, so your body's own control system knows what to do, knows how to direct its energy, knows how to direct its resources, ultimately health is the outcome. So really, in our world, there's really just two components to getting your health back. It's one, you just need to make sure that you're exchanging energy with the environment, in a good way, and that's why healthy food, healthy exercise, light, sunlight exposure, grounding, swimming in the sea, all these things are great because you're basically maximizing isn't quite the word, but you're optimizing your exchange of energy in the environment. And then two, it's what are you doing with that energy? You need to direct it properly. And if your energy knows where to go, what to do, then you basically get healthy. And that was really the example that we were giving earlier that's happening at the University of California. They're basically researching the effects of information. And I know probably not many people would have heard of that concept, but it's literally you're just recording the healthy information of healthy tissue, and then you can direct that at the body, and the body recognizes that information, and it basically knows what to do.
I kind of want to go down a million matrix tangents right now, so I'm going to do my best not to. But one of the key things, it sounds like then, if I'm going to just take this a step further, that you figured out how to effectively record the equivalent of software for the body so it recognizes it and starts behaving properly to optimize for maximum energy production and maximum energy usage to maintain the highest quality of health. Is that fair enough?
It's exactly that. And most people will be really familiar that there's a chemical control system, and we all generally think that it's chemistry directing and doing everything. And sometimes people think, there's a genetic control system. A couple of issues with that is when there's a genetic control system, it's what is the master gene or master control system above that? And the other problem with the biochemical approach is, there's again, actually what's directing all those chemical reactions in the body. And, when you actually, and also there's a third control system that people normally think about, which is the nervous system. People think everything can happen via the nervous system. And again, if you look at the nervous system, it's completely disjointed. The spine is for the camera, like the spine is so thick, but the nerve in your little finger is, just a few millimeters thick. And so the actual speed of transmission is different for every single nerve, and actually makes it very, very difficult from a conventional point of view to coordinate movement, all these things. But if you think of it from a field perspective, that those electrical transmissions are just setting up a field, but information, a little bit like music on a radio wave, is carried in the field, like outside of the nervous system. Then it basically makes a bit more sense. But the bottom line, when you're looking at the body and all of the cell receptors that are picking up communicational messages in the body, you basically have you have receptors that will pick up chemical messages. We also have receptors that will pick up field-based messages. And why field-based messages are so important? Like if I was trying to ring you up, or via smell or something like that, or communicate to you via smell, and we're imagining these molecules going to you, it'd be super, super slow. But if I pick up my cell phone, dial a number, I get through to you pretty much instantly. And so a field-based communication system is pretty much instant, and it's infinitely more times more efficient than a chemical-based control system. And, logically, when you really analyze it, the body would fall apart if it only worked on a nervous system, genetic, and biochemical-based control system, simply because there's trillions and trillions of operations that have to happen every second, and they can't actually be coordinated properly. It takes a while for a chemical to go down your blood, get to this other receptor, and obviously, things happen much more instantaneously than that. And it's just another very, very unfortunate thing that's happened over the last 100 years. Like, chemistry has been studied, well, not just studied; it's had trillions of dollars, go into research, and it's mainly been sort of originated back from the Rockefellers, who basically financed the medical industry, chemical, big pharma industry, and they just didn't want any competing ideas. And in those days, it was homeopathy, subtle energy, radionics, and all those ideas that were quite strong 120 years ago just got crushed out of existence, and there just hasn't been any dollars looking at the physics of biology. And that's really the reason society doesn't understand this. And obviously that's really our mission in life, is actually look, there's two sides of the healthcare coin. There's biochemistry and there's bioenergetics. And, we really need billions of dollars to be put into studying the physics of biology for society's good.
Okay. So I'm going to do my best to interpret everything you just said, which the net is the standard way of thinking for the past 100 or so years has been focus on the body's response and reaction to chemicals. And if we look at the trillions of dollars that go into our healthcare system, the drug industry, we'll call it anything along there, we pretty much try to say, hey, take a pill, change this. But it's complicated, it's inefficient, it's slow. And when you start mixing all of these systems together, it's incredibly unpredictable. Also, given the fact that we all have very different genetics, lifestyles, and then when you take environmental issues into consideration, maybe your age, the degradation of the system of the body we're in, who the hell knows what's going to happen. And on the other side, if you take a look at bioenergetics, it's faster, more efficient, it's information exchange, and
effect-free, toxin-free.
Okay. All right. So I'm buying into this. So I'm going to play a little let's pretend here. So the perfect scenario would be, imagine if there was a way to find a system that could create a standardized program that most or all bodies understand, inject that or surround the body with it so it either taught it or restarted or rebooted the body so it would in fact behave properly, and then get that in so you could either jumpstart, reboot, or operationalize the system so it worked better all the time. That's really the vision and the goal that you have. Is that fair enough?
It is, and it it's sort of a healing philosophy. Well, there's a few differences, but like even functional medicine, which I'm a fan of, but most of our Western thinking is thinking, we've got a virus, or in your case you had cancer, you have a disease, we need to eradicate the virus, eradicate the cancer, get rid of the symptom. Like it's generally about blocking or suppressing.
Right.
In our thinking, it's like, no, why don't we study how a really, really healthy person is? What does a healthy control system look like? And why don't we provide the body with that information so that it can direct its own resources back towards that? And in short, you're enabling the body's own healing system to do the work, because you're providing it, with the right exchange of energy and the right information that it can do its job.
Okay. So let's go down. I know you've got 3 ways to heal the body that you talk about. I'd like to go down that rabbit hole a little bit and talk about what those are, but also about how fields, how do we make this work? And on the spectrum of development, where are we? Like, how close are we to being able to have drug-free health, to have programs that maybe we could drop into our iPhone or our Apple Watch and have it communicate to the body all the time? That's a hint, by the way, the picture behind your head.
Hint.
But I know it's, and I didn't even think about it until I was talking about it. It's like, basically, that's what you've been up to. But let's talk about, first of all, the 3 most effective ways to heal the body and create more energy that's healthy.
Sure. Well, I was just thinking about that first question. Rick, just quickly to answer the first question.
Yeah.
I've got to have my face.
Yeah, you gotta have your pie hole pointed at the noise hole. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, or the noise hole pointed at the ear hole. That's what I tell my wife all the time.
Basically, we're there. Like, the technology and the science is there to do this. There's an awful lot of effects and messages, that have to be, have further research. But over the last 20 years, based on the work I was doing with Professor Fraser, we've done a very broad sort of approach of knowing what all the healthy information of all your meridian systems, all your organs, mind, body connections, etc. is. So, and actually including getting different tissues healthy to, so that different viruses and bacteria, won't live in them. So that work is done, but there's a much bigger job from an overall societal impact to get universities to study it, write more papers, regulatory environment, all that type of stuff. But we'll go back to your question, like these 3 different ways of how we do it.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Let's go for it. So, one, basically you can transfer information to the body's control system using fields. So you can use like electromagnetic fields. You can use photons. And on the phone, you said to me, blinking lights, but basically blinky lights. They do work. And you can also do it through imprinting that information into structured water, and then it's delivered via the water. So I guess, why don't we just show people? I would show people a little bit of, a little picture.
So you want me to show the icky picture?
Of the miHealth. Yeah.
Okay, do you want to show the miHealth? So and should I start with the icky picture first?
Let's go icky picture.
Okay, great. All right. So I will bring this up.
While Mike finds.
There we go. Icky pictures. Here we go. So wrong ones. Okay, here's the icky pictures.
Yeah.
So which icky picture do we want to look at first? You can point at it.
We'll look at the first icky picture.
Okay, so this is a burn.
It's all the same arm.
Yeah.
So basically, this is a patient who had an extremely severe burn where you can see all the skin is literally just blistering right off the arm. And in this case, basically, we use the miHealth on the skin restoration.
Okay, and explain to people what the miHealth is, and you can hold it up. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so this is the miHealth. It basically uses pulsed electromagnetic fields to carry the restorative healing information in on top of that in on top of a signal. And then you basically see this is over a progression of a 3-week period.
So this is the guys.
This hand here is 10 days later, and you can see it dramatically healing. Still not looking great. And this is the same arm 3 weeks later, basically completely healed.
Wow!
And that is.
And that was only with
that does not happen in Western medicine.
And that was only with your device?
That was only with this device.
Holy cow. Because I have one, and I'll be the first to admit, like I started using it a while ago. I'd turned on the protective programs. I'd fly with it. It'd always be on me. And I slept with it. I was having some really bad sleep issues for a little while. And I had it on. And I was also just like super I had a lot of anxiety. So I had it on, and I'm going to talk about it just a little bit. You can hand it to me. Basically, this is Harry's company that builds this device. And you can see there's little either pads here for touching in on the body. And then there's also things so you can plug in little pads. I don't remember what the hell they're called. But and then you use the user interface and you program it, and it plays back essentially healing programs. Is that fair enough? If I were,
yep.
Okay, that's my dumb guy explanation. I prefer the dumb guy explanation. I like the uber nerdy things too. But all right, so moving down the rabbit hole here, we have one more icky picture thing.
Go icky picture number 2. So this is basically, I believe it's a.
Boy, that's a
horse or a llama.
That's a horrible hairy leg of a man. No, it's not a man. Yeah. It's a horse. It must be a horse.
Yeah, that's an Australian's leg.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so back to what happened to it here? Merely a flesh wound.
This was sent in to us by one of our vets in Europe.
Wow. Blech.
I don't actually remember what had happened, but I assume it tore its leg on some barbed wire or something.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Got stuck for a little while.
And basically, they tried using antibiotics and everything, and obviously, and none of that was healing it up. And so again, they're basically using miHealth.
And then I'll bring it over to the next picture. Okay, there it is.
In a few weeks, it'll healed up.
Okay, yeah, a little scabby in the end. That's not so bad.
No,
okay.
Skin's such a great visual one because if people have anxiety, you might the person might notice, but someone else can't see it. But with the skin, you can really.
Oh yeah, for sure. So the bottom line is, and just so I know, because I've got the device, and it's miHealth.
Yeah.
For people who are going to obviously ask, are going to be like, where can I get it? How much does it cost? And talk a little bit about the programs. Like, what program did the healing on the flesh wounds? Merely a flesh wound, I might add. That was my horrible Monty Python moment for you. But where do they get it? How much does it cost? And talk a little bit about the programs.
So actually, you can only get it from a practitioner because we search practitioners, but practitioners absolutely sell them to their clients. And if you want to visit a practitioner, you just go to neshealth.com, and then there's a practitioner locator. And you can actually see them remote. It doesn't have to be one in your town, and they'll just do a Zoom consultation with you. And if you want one, they'll sell it to you for sure.
Okay.
How much is it? Depends when this podcast goes out because of the lovely supply chain shocks. It's
just do a range.
Anyway, I believe it'll be 4,700 when this podcast comes out.
Okay. So the net is go to neshealth.com in case you don't speak British. neshealth.com. I'm just giving you a hard time, Harry, because I get to. And find a practitioner, try it out first. You can either do it remote or in person. And the whole remote business, like I got to say, anytime someone says, yeah, I'm going to do a remote healing on you, I'm going to do it with an electronic device, I'm like,
no, they're sending it in the post.
Oh, they are. Oh, okay. So then they basically guide you through what to do. Because anytime I hear remote healing, I'm like, I don't know about this.
But you use energy healers that do.
I have. I do for sure. And it's worked. And I still am like, I'm not sure about this because I'm like,
you're not sure about what's the block for you? The physics of it?
Yeah. It's like, I have to have proximity.
You believe in quantum physics and
of course I do.
And the hologram.
Here's the thing. I live in 3 spaces simultaneously all the time, which is the total skeptic. And, I'm a marketer after all. And then I've had the wildest, weirdest things happen. I haven't even told you some of the weird crap that we have a lot of weird things in common. And then, yes, I do. I have an energy healer I work with on a regular basis. Kim White is one of them. He works with Dan Sullivan and a few others as well. And I've had remarkable results. I'm alive because of them, but my skeptic always kicks into gear.
Yeah. I was a little bit similar at 26. There was a book called The Field that actually turned me around on that by Lynn McTaggart. Which,
oh, yeah.
That book really helped me. And there was another one called The Holographic Universe.
Yes.
But like once you go down the rabbit hole, there's no, the reality really is very, very much like the Matrix movie. And what you think really, really can and does happen most of the time. Like if your mindset's in the right state anyway.
Right. Well, and kooky weird story, just up the road, less than a mile from us, Vivian. So Vivian has worked with Lynn McTaggart before. And by the way, anyone who's listening, watching to us right now, check out her work. She's amazing. She was at our grocery store with her daughter who lives right next to us. And then she was visiting.
Lynn McTaggart lives here?
Lynn McTaggart doesn't live here, but her daughter does. And she's here frequently. I'm like, Lynn McTaggart? Because we know her from TLC. And we ended up having a cute little powwow. I'll show you the picture when we're done today. But she was just up at her little grocery store and we ended up hanging out, and yeah, sweetest lady. Moving on. Okay. Where do we go from here? Because I unless there's something else really big, I want you to talk a little bit about the current work you're doing. Because, you've had miHealth and you've been doing this for a long time, and you're thinking about bigger things, more portable things, and getting even better with the software. And I think we'll create some more.
Yeah. Probably I'll just tie up the other bit because we mentioned the miHealth, and I'll just briefly say.
Oh, we had number 3, didn't we?
Yeah, well, there were 2 we didn't mention.
Okay, let's go through those, and then we'll move on.
But we'll do it relatively briefly.
All right, no, go for it.
So, in the context of visiting a practitioner, so if you go and visit a NES Bioenergetic practitioner, not through woo-woo remote stuff, they can basically send you a scan. They can basically send you a scanner in the post. You can do a bioenergetic scan where they can look at the energy of your different organ systems, meridians, mind-body connections. And then from that, they basically know which sets of information to imprint you to restore your health. And, you can do it through the miHealth that we just discussed, or you can do it through information imprinted water, or what we call an infoceutical.
Oh, we have a new prop. Yeah, fantastic. Prop. Ding. All right, here. And I'll hold that up while you're talking about it here. And this one here, by the way, says
feeling.
EL16 feeling. All right. And this is one of your products as well.
That's part of like a brain performance range. So like we have these ones to basically upgrade your brain.
All right. So talk about imprinted water, because again, it'll be like, all right, first of all, how do you do it? How does it work? And what proof do you have that it works?
Sure. I'll give you a quick brief bit of history. So, we mentioned homeopathy earlier. So like 200 years ago, like the father of homeopathy was Hahnemann. He used to basically take a dilute substance and he would bang it on like a Lefurian Bible, I believe. And he would succuss the information, into a lactose solution. And then you end up eating the lactose. And that was really popular in Europe, actually even in the States for like 100 plus years. It started to get a little bit less effective, really, because of the 100,000 plus chemicals that ended up going out in society. And also because it's actually quite indirect. Like if you take something like nuts, vomica, or any of these herbs, like it's not an exact message, to restore your body. But that's where it started. About 40, 50 years ago, there was a French scientist called Jacques Benaviste who accidentally because he had a water sample with a mast cell in it, and he was basically doing allergen research. And anyway, he had a bit of he had an allergen that was away from that was in the water, but the allergen wasn't touching the mast cell, and they took the allergen out, and then the mast cell still reacted as though there was allergen. He thought,
okay, and I have to ask you, the mast cell? How's it spelled?
MAST cell.
Mast cell. Okay, what is a mast cell for us dumb people who don't know what it is?
Oh, it's just an immune cell that would react to an allergen normally.
Okay,
that's it.
And how do I get them? I just want to.
Well, I don't think you can. I mean, they're in your blood.
Oh, they're just in our blood. Okay.
They're in your blood.
All right, so keep going.
I don't think you can buy them in Kmart.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't thinking like, hey, I'd love to buy a bucket full of mast cells. Thank you.
No,
whose mast cell would you like?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good.
And so then he started researching this further. So he basically started making an electronic copy of an allergen, imprinting that into water, and then exposing the mast cells to the imprinted water and seeing the mast cells react. He published that in Nature, or tried to publish it in Nature. Nature refused because they said that water couldn't have a memory. And then he wrote back and they said, well, if you get it repeated in 3 other laboratories and universities around the world, then we'll publish it. So he did. And then so they were forced to publish it, but they put a note saying, but there must be something wrong here. This is horseshit.
Okay. And how long ago was this that they...
1980s. So
okay. So it was pretty recent.
4 years ago. And anyway, but the scientific community and Big Pharma basically couldn't have that happen. So they went out to destroy his credibility. They sent someone to his lab. They wrote up another article in Nature debunking it. And then he, he died a year and a half later from a heart attack. Read into it what you will or what you won't will. And because of that, no one touched water research, in the scientific community. Like, it was sort of like just dead, really. Then some Russians did. Then Gerald Pollack at Washington University, he started doing research in structured water. So there seemed to be a bit more of some viability in it. And then post that, another French scientist who won the Nobel Prize for discovering AIDS, which is Luc Montagnier, he basically took up that mantle and he decided to make a copy of a virus. And then, so he would take an electronic copy of a virus, imprint water, add ACTH, which are the base pairs of basically the genetic base pairs. And then from that material and the field, i.e. the information, basically recreate that virus with 98.85% accuracy, which was, sounds insane, but again, it was repeated and valid. And because the Western academic community don't want, he's now ended up in China. So all that research is with the Chinese now. Different story. And then I say, our insight with Peter was who cares about allergens and viruses? Why don't we just record how cells are, different organs are, when they're healthy? And so we just recorded healthy information. And then from that's basically, what we imprint in an infoceutical that today will give you that effect. Can't remember what your other question was, but anyway, that's the background.
Why water? Why not something else? And is water particular?
You can do it with sugar, alcohol, polymers, gels, supplements. You totally can. Honestly, it's because, I was 27 in this flat in England with no money, not much energy, no staff, and that was cheap and easy to do. I literally boiled up water, added minerals with it, and then filled up these bottles with turkey base and printed the labels off a dot matrix printer. That was the beginning of NES, because there was no capital. We couldn't. I couldn't even go to a factory to negotiate a supplement contract. It wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question, but yeah, it's really just because of the history of the company.
Okay. All right. So what I had originally asked you is the 3 most effective ways to heal the body. And so we ended up going down, and we ended up talking also about how fields govern energy. So was there one more? So we did water.
No, we covered, because it's basically how energy is exchanged in the body. Like life is an energy exchange.
Yep.
And then 2, it's how information basically optimizes through the control system. And then there's just 2 ways that we do it. Well, sorry, there's 3 ways: the miHealth, the nutraceuticals, and the third way, which we haven't yet done.
All right. So
over there.
Okay, let's talk about this new gadget you've been working on and where it is, because first of all, it looks cool as hell. And I'm trying to think. I mean, you've been working on this a long time.
I've had NES 20 years, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So what is this? What is this thing? What have you been working on?
So the company's called Energy for Life, and it's a personalized energy management system that detects, corrects, and protects your energy. And, to break down the detect and the correct, so it's detecting your energy. Cue other slide. Basically, in traditional Chinese medicine, you can pick up 29 different pulses from putting your fingers on your wrist. We worked out a way using just a PCG sensor that will basically look at the shape of the pulse wave, so you can see like all these little bumps in that pulse wave. That enables us to give like a much more instantaneous, true picture of your overall vitality right in that moment. It also gives us indications to your emotional state. So, for instance, like in Chinese medicine, there's like a liver gallbladder pulse, which if that was surging would indicate you're probably quite frustrated or angry. So, but if it's completely normal, then you're likely to be very decisive or normal. So like we can see the different sort of emotional scales based on these different pulses. And
okay, I'm going to stop you just for a second. So I want to make sure I understand. So the net is if there's 28 different pulses that are going through the body, there's a different pulse for heart, each one of your organs. And depending on the health of the organ, they're going to behave a certain way. So it's like a rhythm or...
yeah, I mean, Chinese medicine's a little more complicated. So like they have things they call like a wari pulse or surging pulse or knotted or bound pulse, like really weird names. And they like those pulses all correlate a little bit to the liver, a little bit to spleen. Like it's not like there's an exact pulse per organ. But we sort of have this table of how it's a bit complicated, but basically we've basically mapped it out where we're like stacking up the correlations so we can get a reasonable, and that's why we haven't used it to do an organ analysis. Because I think the FTC would come for me like a ton of bricks, and B, it's not technically quite correct. It's not a direct correlation. So instead, we've done this sort of broader emotional approach and this broader overall health approach. But if you're comparing it to like the Oura ring that you're wearing or a Whoop, they're basically based on movement, and B, heart rate, and C, heart rate variability, and that's basically the limit of of what I'm looking at.
They just came out with a new one. I actually just ordered it that does a bunch of temperature sensing as well.
They do temperature too. Yeah. About temperature.
It's pretty inaccurate, is what I've found. I mean, it's better than nothing. But
they're basically looking at yesterday. When you're looking at the readiness score, for instance, that's based on how well did you sleep last night. How much exercise did you yesterday. So it's based on the last few days of data. But what this is actually telling us is because we're just looking at it from a true TCM pulse vitality point of view.
And TCM again stands for
traditional Chinese medicine. So we're basically getting an instant snapshot of right now, how energetic, how vital, how healthy are you now? And we don't need that past data. We don't need yesterday's data to say what that snapshot is today. So that, it's going to be interesting. And, it's basically the next, in my mind anyway, it's like the next evolution of what we can get from wearables and, what we can get from pulse data. And it's all because we're looking at the full shape of that pulse wave rather than just the top curve. The heart rate is that top curve, or heart rate variability is all based on the top.
Okay. So again, I just want to boil this down. So with your device, which is going to be, it'll look like a watch. I'm going to flip back over to it. That's on the screen right here. It's going to pay attention and read all these pulses. And I assume with a combination of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and having baseline tables, and it gets to know you, it starts to pay attention to what's normal. And then with a little bit of input and feedback, you're going to tell it how you feel. It's going to tell you where you are, but then you're going to start seeing a correlation with recommendation engine on what to do to get better, feel better, give it more feedback. It's going to learn your body, and it's going to also, are you going to be able to program my body to be optimal as well? Is that part of the vision?
Well, maybe it's not obvious, but yeah. So that's the correct and protect part. So the correct part is just, so instead of us imprinting information, into structured water, or like using a pulsed electromagnetic field, in the case of a miHealth, basically in that device we have a pulsed, so we basically have a PMF generator. Plus, I hate to use the term blinking lights, but now you've got it in my head.
I know, I can't help it. I can't.
Blinking lights. Turns all our science into blinking lights. Anyway, blinking lights.
Just for everyone, so you know the reference here. Was it at? I don't remember. Was it at Burning Man or was it?
We were on a hike.
Okay, we were on a hike. All right, so I don't know what it was. But we were out and talking one day, and you were explaining it to me, and I'm like, it's a bunch of blinking lights, right? And you're like, damn, no.
Basically, you can deliver the information on photons, and photon is basically a blinky light. But the information is a lot more complicated than just blinks.
Right.
Anyway, so the information gets transferred, basically just transferred directly into the body and into the blood on your wrist. And it can start to optimize your control system, and then it's all tied into the readings. So, and it'll basically balance your energy. Truthfully, as it's not available right now, I think I can be more claimy, but truthfully, it's going to have broader implications for longevity and health. But from a claim point of view, we're literally just claiming that it's going to balance your energy. But that's it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So. Got to ask you the question, when, like right now you're in fundraising mode, you're out talking to a lot of people, but how far away is it? How far away are we from prototypes, shipping, delivery? What's your best guess at this point? Got to put you on the line.
I know the answers.
Okay. That's right. Go for it. Tell us.
That's all right. So actually we've been developing it for the last 2 years ourselves, mostly because in our NES company, we have a very strong R&D department. Actually, well, basically, we've been like investing and doing all the R&D over the last 2 years, and that's really on the back of our previous 18 years. And in the case of prototypes, basically they're basically all done. I'm going to have them like in a week or so. I'm sure there'll be little glitches that always
look, man, it's software and hardware.
And so all those glitches should be removed in the next 3-4 months, and then they're also going into trial at the University of California, where we're putting that device actually on the side of the mice cages, and then there's 60 humans are also doing a trial with them. So all of that will get done over the next 3 months. Then there'll be some stuff to work through on the just the customer experience, the product experience. Mm-hmm. So we aim to basically launch in June. So it's going to be available for probably like 1,000 to 2,000 beta testers from June. But a beta test, it's not like a Microsoft beta test. It'll be
beta testers for you Americans.
Proper. It'll be fully working. But it's just before scale, and then once everyone's happy, once we're all happy, then we'll hit the scaling button.
That's great. All right. So I don't know. Do you remember the movie Shrek?
Yeah.
Remember Donkey?
Yeah.
Ooh, pick me.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm
if you want to be picked, energyforlife.com. I'm sure there's an opt-in box, and then you'll be first in line on any newsletters announcements on that one.
Well done. All right. So what he's saying, ladies and gentlemen, is if you want to be Donkey and get picked mead from the Shrek movies, I think it's one of the funniest bits. But anyway, if you're interested in beta testing, getting early access to the new device, and by the way, what's it called?
It is called a personal energy management system.
Yep. But at energy4life.com with the number 4, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's
energy and then the number 4 life, energy4life.com, which we'll have in the show notes, etc. So we've covered a lot of ground here. And this is one of those things where just the nature of this conversation is it's nonlinear in nature. And I hope we did our very best. But so the bottom line is we talked a lot about how to create energy, how to restore it using bioenergetics. But if you were going to wrap this baby up in a package, how would you summarize this so it makes the most sense to the layman? So
if you want to go a bit deeper, there's a free movie called The Living Matrix, not the original Matrix, which is on the livingmatrixmovie.com. I believe actually also if you opt in on nesthealth.com, like in the email chain, you'll definitely get a link to that movie too. And we have a book, which I think the title just changed. The title was called Energy for Life. And again, if you opt in into nesthealth.com, you'd get access to that book. So that'd be a good place to start.
Okay. So the bottom line, just again, to be transparent, you're the producer director of The Living Matrix.
Yeah. It's completely biased, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a cartoon for everyone. No, it's not a cartoon. I'm just giving you a hard time.
It has Lynn McTaggart in, who we were talking about earlier, and Bruce Lipton and like ions, heart maths, and basically actually we filmed I think it was 5 or 6 incredible healing stories that have basically been healed through these techniques, and then we went and interviewed some of the sort of leading thought thinkers. Can't think of the word.
Foremost thinkers. Is that what you're looking for?
Foremost thinkers and scientists to basically explain what was going on. And that was the best-selling health documentary way back in 2008. It's a while back, but it's still a good movie.
Yeah, well, and the people in it are amazing human beings, so who are well respected. So I think part of it is just due to the nature of the world we live in, which is driven by big money. A lot of this technology, even though, like you said, had been around a long time, it got discredited because it was a threat. And it does not have the same back end opportunity. It's not like when you think about oil, best continuity system in the world, right?
If you get people healthy, you're done.
Right. Yeah. But in this case, it's, I mean, if you have an electronic device, I'm going to ask you one more question about the watch, the Energy for Life watch is.
Oh, I didn't say about Protect part actually.
Oh, let's do it.
So it's detect, correct, protect, but it also protects you through personalized meditations. And one of the ways like you lose energy is through anxiety you were mentioning earlier, stress, etc., etc.
I lose most of mine through aggravation. That's my source. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically within the app, there's an awful lot of like spiritual wisdom and all these personalized meditations that are based on the actual readings. So for instance, like from an emotional point of view, if it looked like you needed to develop more trust or decisiveness, etc., then it basically builds a personalized meditation based on that. And obviously when you're losing energy and you need to protect your energy, then you play one of those. And equally you can play one of those while the wearable is correcting your energy at the same time. Okay,
so it's fair to say, I know this in my life to be true, but when you have low energy, there's going to be an emotional cause, which is going to be related to some part of your body. So it makes sense. Just if you just put on your scientific hat here to go, okay, my energy is low. Sometimes we can't even tell when our energy is low. If your 28 pulses are at work, the watch is going to be able to say, hey, there's probably something going on here. It's going to see a correlation between the emotional cause. There's clearly going to be a physical thing going on, and it'll say, hey, here's how to change your thoughts and your mind, which is actually going to make a difference as well. That's sort of the recipe.
Exactly. And it can go deeper than that to help you manifest the reality you want. That's a whole rabbit hole.
There you go. Literally a rabbit hole. And then you have the blinky lights and the pulsing electricity stuff to enhance this even further.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately they're just very pretty blinky lights. I think I should underline that.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, I mean, the watch face is awesome. And by the way, you've got all these little symbols around there. What are some of those? What's the significance of them?
And in part it's artistic. And obviously it's just, so people will spread it in a way. But they do actually all have meaning. So basically, like for each meridian, so like these are little parts of meridians. Some of them are little parts of what a peptide molecule would look like. Some of them are, basically the symbols all have meaning. So when it's putting an actual signal through, that symbol will also appear.
Awesome.
And it's basically artistic license.
All right. Yeah. Well, I had to ask. All right. So we've got some action items for everyone. So first of all, if you're interested in the miHealth, you can go to neshealth.com. That's one of the links, and you can learn about practitioners, learn more about the device. I'll hold that up one more time. If you're watching us right now, this is the gadget, the device. I got to fire mine up again, I have to admit. And then where would people get your infoceutical waters?
It's the same way. Basically, you have to see a practitioner.
Okay, great. And so that's number 2. And I've actually got some. And then to learn more about the watch, that is to go to energyforlife.com with the number 4. And if you'd like to get on an early access beta list, I don't know if there's a place to tell anyone about us. Let Harry and his team know that you heard about us from the Capability Amplifier podcast as well. What else should we tell folks before we let them go?
I think that sums up pretty well.
All right. So the only other assignment is to check out the Living Matrix. We'll make sure there's a link in the show notes so you can check that out as well. And, we'll just make sure we've got a list. You and I can talk offline about maybe some other links and some information we can pass everyone along to.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's been amazing.
Okay, great. Been a blast. I always love spending time with you. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to just tell everyone who's watching, thanks for watching, listening. And if you've enjoyed this, make sure that you give it a like and upvote, share it with some friends, leave us a positive comment. You can always go to capabilityamplifier.com and leave a message for me as well. All right, that's it. See you later.